Welcome to Code Your English, the home to learn and grow fast.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Code Your English. I am very happy that you are here today. In this podcast, we do not only practice English, we also learn something new about life, about people, and about ourselves. So today, we will improve our listening and speaking skills, and at the same time, we will talk about an interesting topic: optimistic people and pessimistic people. Let me start with a simple question. Have you ever faced a problem in your life? Of course you have. We all face problems. Maybe you had a difficult exam. Maybe you did not get the job you wanted. Maybe someone said something that hurt you. Problems are a normal part of life. No one can escape them. Every person, young or old, rich or poor, faces challenges. But here is something interesting. When two people face the same problem, they often react in very different ways. One person may say, "It's okay, I will try again. I can learn from this." Another person may say, "This is terrible. Nothing ever works for me. I will probably fail again." The situation is the same. The problem is the same. But the reaction is completely different. Why does this happen? Some people usually stay positive. They try to see hope in difficult situations. They believe that things can improve. Even when they feel sad or disappointed, they do not give up easily. These people are often called optimistic. On the other hand, some people expect bad results. Before they even try, they think, "It will not work." They focus on what could go wrong. They often feel worried or stressed about the future. These people are often called pessimistic. Now you may be thinking, which one am I? Am I more optimistic or more pessimistic? This is a very important question, and today we will explore it together in a simple and clear way. We will understand what optimism really means. We will understand what pessimism really means. We will look at how optimistic people think and how pessimistic people think. And most importantly, we will learn what we can do to improve our mindset. This topic is not only about psychology. It is about your daily life. It is about how you think when you wake up in the morning. It is about how you react when something goes wrong. It is about how you speak to yourself inside your mind. Your way of thinking can change your feelings, your actions, and even your future. So stay with me until the end of this episode. Listen carefully. Practice speaking with me, and ask yourself honest questions. Today, here on Code Your English, we are going to discover how your mindset can change your life. What does optimistic mean? Now let us talk about the word optimistic. This is a very important word, and I want you to understand it clearly and deeply. When we say that someone is optimistic, we mean that this person usually expects good results. An optimistic person believes that something good can happen, even if the situation is difficult. This does not mean they think life is perfect. It means they choose to believe that things can improve. Optimistic people have hope. Hope is a strong and beautiful word. Hope means believing that the future can be better. For example, imagine you have an important exam next week. You studied, but you are still a little nervous. An optimistic person may say, "I prepared well. I will do my best. Maybe I will get a good score." Even if they are not 100% sure, they still focus on the positive possibility. They believe that their effort can bring a good result. Now, let us look at another example. Imagine you go to a job interview. You feel stressed. Your hands are a little cold. Your heart is beating fast. After the interview, you start thinking about your performance. An optimistic person might say, I answered most of the questions well. Even if I don't get this job, it is a good experience. I will improve for the next opportunity. Do you see the difference? The optimistic person does not focus only on what went wrong. They look for a solution. They look for growth. They believe every situation is an opportunity to learn and improve. Another important part of being optimistic is seeing problems as temporary. Temporary means something that does not last forever. Optimistic people believe that difficult times will pass. For example, imagine you are having a bad day. Maybe you missed the bus. Maybe your teacher corrected many mistakes in your homework. Maybe someone was rude to you. An optimistic person might think, today is not a good day, but tomorrow can be better. They do not believe that one bad day means a bad life. They understand that life has ups and downs. Optimistic people also try to focus on solutions instead of only focusing on problems. Let me give you a small story. Imagine a student named Amir. Amir fails a math test. He feels sad, of course. But instead of saying, I am stupid, I will always fail, he says, okay, I did not understand some chapters. I need to ask my teacher for help. I need to practice more. Amir believes he can improve. He believes his ability is not fixed. He believes he can grow. This is a very important part of optimism. Being optimistic does not mean ignoring reality. It does not mean pretending everything is perfect. It means having a positive attitude while still seeing the truth. For example, if you know your English is not very strong yet, optimism does not mean saying, my English is perfect. No, it means saying, my English is not perfect now, but I can improve step by step. You believe in progress. You believe in effort. You believe in change. Optimistic people usually use positive self-talk. Self-talk means the voice inside your mind. We all talk to ourselves silently. Optimistic self-talk sounds like this. I can try. I can learn. This is difficult, but not impossible. These small sentences can change your feelings. When you repeat positive words, you feel more confident. Confidence grows slowly, but it grows stronger when you believe in yourself. Let us think together for a moment. When something goes wrong in your life, what do you usually say to yourself? Do you say, why does this always happen to me? Or do you say, what can I learn from this? This small difference in thinking is very powerful. It can change your actions, and your actions can change your results. Optimism is like a mental habit. The more you practice it, the stronger it becomes. At first, it may feel difficult, but slowly, you start to see opportunities and challenges. You start to look for solutions instead of excuses. You start to believe that improvement is possible. So in simple words, being optimistic means expecting good results, believing that things can improve, seeing problems as temporary, and focusing on hope and solutions. It is not about being unrealistic. It is about choosing a positive and hopeful mindset. And this mindset can change how you feel, how you act, and how you live your life. What does pessimistic mean? Now let us talk about the word pessimistic. This word is the opposite of optimistic. When a person is pessimistic, they usually expect bad results. A pessimistic person often thinks that something will go wrong, even before it happens. They focus more on problems than on solutions. They see danger more easily than opportunity. Pessimism is not about being realistic. It is about expecting negative results most of the time. For example, imagine again that you have an important exam next week. You studied, but you still feel nervous. A pessimistic person might say, I know I will fail. The exam will be too difficult. I am not smart enough. Even if they prepared, they still expect a bad result. This kind of thinking creates fear and doubt inside the mind. Fear is a strong emotion. It makes your body feel tense. Your heart beats faster. Your hands may shake. Doubt is another important word. Doubt means not believing in yourself or in something good. When a person has too much doubt, they stop trusting their own ability. They may think, other people can succeed, but not me. This thought slowly reduces confidence. Let us look at the job interview example again. After the interview, a pessimistic person might think, I answered badly. They probably did not like me. I will not get the job. Even if some answers were good, they focus only on mistakes. They repeat those mistakes again and again in their mind. This creates worry and stress. Worry means thinking too much about possible problems. Stress is the pressure you feel in your body and mind when you think something bad will happen. Another important part of pessimism is believing that problems will stay forever. Pessimistic people often think that bad situations are permanent. Permanent means lasting for a long time, maybe forever. For example, if they fail one test, they may say, I always fail. I will never be good at this subject. Do you hear the word always and never? These words are common in pessimistic thinking. They make the problem look bigger and more serious than it really is. Let me tell you a small story. Imagine a student named Sarah. Sarah tries to learn English. One day, she makes many mistakes while speaking. Some classmates laugh. Sarah feels embarrassed. Instead of thinking, I need more practice, she thinks, I am terrible at English. I will never speak fluently. Everyone is better than me. She starts to avoid speaking in class. She stops trying. Her fear grows stronger. This is how pessimistic thinking can limit progress. Pessimistic people also focus strongly on risks and dangers. They often think about what could go wrong. For example, if they want to start a new project, they may think, what if I fail? What if people judge me? What if I lose money? Of course, thinking about risks is sometimes useful. But when a person only sees danger and never sees opportunity, they may miss many chances in life. Sometimes pessimistic people protect themselves by expecting the worst. They believe that if they expect a bad result, they will not feel too disappointed. They may say, if I think I will fail, at least I will not be surprised. But this habit can become dangerous. When you always expect the worst, your motivation becomes weaker. You may stop trying because you believe there is no hope. It is also important to say something very clear. Being pessimistic does not mean someone is bad or weak. Many pessimistic people are intelligent and careful. Sometimes their negative thinking comes from past experiences. Maybe they failed before. Maybe they were criticized many times. Slowly, they learn to expect bad results. Their mind tries to protect them from pain. However, when pessimism becomes a habit, it affects emotions and actions. It increases worry, stress, and fear. It reduces confidence and courage. It can make a person feel tired and unmotivated. When you believe that nothing will improve, you stop looking for solutions. So in simple words, being pessimistic means expecting bad results, believing that problems will last forever, and focusing more on risks and dangers than on opportunities. It often brings feelings of fear, doubt, worry, and stress. Understanding pessimism helps us see the contrast between negative and positive thinking. And when we understand it clearly, we can begin to change it step by step. How optimistic people think. Now let us go deeper and understand how optimistic people actually think. We already said that optimistic people expect good results. But how does this happen inside their mind? What kind of thoughts do they repeat every day? In this part, we will explore their thinking patterns in a simple and clear way. First, optimistic people look for solutions. When a problem appears, they do not only ask, "Why did this happen?" Instead, they ask, "What can I do now?" This small question changes everything. For example, imagine you miss an important deadline. An optimistic person might feel disappointed, but then they think, "Okay, I made a mistake. What is the solution? Can I talk to my teacher? Can I explain the situation? Can I do better next time?" Their mind moves toward action. They focus on solving the problem instead of only complaining about it. Second, optimistic people believe they can learn. They do not think their abilities are fixed. Fixed means something that cannot change. Instead, they believe their skills can improve with effort and practice. For example, if they are not good at speaking English, they do not say, "I am just bad at languages." They say, "I am not good yet, but I can practice. I can improve step by step." That small word, "yet," is very powerful. It shows hope and growth. Optimistic people often say sentences like, "This is difficult, but I can try." Notice something important here. They do not say, "This is easy." They accept that the situation is difficult. They are realistic. But they add something positive after that. They add effort. They add possibility. They add courage. This mindset gives them energy to continue. Another important thinking habit of optimistic people is focusing on what they can control. In life, many things are outside our control. We cannot control the weather. We cannot control other people's opinions. We cannot control the past. But we can control our effort, our attitude, and our reaction. Optimistic people understand this. For example, if they do not get a job, they may say, "I cannot control the company's decision, but I can improve my skills. I can prepare better for the next interview." This way of thinking reduces stress and increases motivation. Optimistic people also learn from mistakes. They see mistakes as lessons, not as proof of failure. When they fail, they ask, "What can this teach me?" Let us imagine a small story. A man starts a small business. After 6 months, the business does not succeed. A pessimistic thinker might say, "I am not good at business. I should stop." But an optimistic thinker might say, "Okay, I made some wrong decisions. I learned what does not work. Next time, I will plan better." Instead of feeling shame, they focus on improvement. Now, I want you to reflect for a moment. Think about the last time something went wrong in your life. What was your first thought? Did you look for a solution? Or did you blame yourself? Did you believe you could learn from it? Or did you think you were not good enough? Take a few seconds and think about your answer. Optimistic thinking does not mean you never feel sad. Optimistic people also feel pain, fear, and disappointment. The difference is that they do not stay in those emotions for too long. They allow themselves to feel, but then they move forward. They remind themselves that this moment is temporary. Let us do a small speaking practice together. Repeat these sentences after me. Pause the podcast if you need more time. This situation is difficult, but I can try. I can learn from my mistakes. I cannot control everything, but I can control my effort. Every problem has a possible solution. When you say these sentences aloud, you train your brain to think differently. Words are powerful. The way you speak to yourself becomes your reality. Optimistic people also imagine positive outcomes. When they work on something, they picture success in their mind. This gives them motivation. It gives them energy to continue even when progress is slow. They believe improvement is possible, even if it takes time. Let me ask you another question. When you think about your future, what do you see? Do you see opportunities, or do you see problems? Your answer can show your mindset. In simple words, optimistic people think in a way that pushes them forward. They look for solutions. They believe they can learn. They focus on what they can control, and they treat mistakes as lessons. Their mindset is not about being perfect. It is about being hopeful and active. And the beautiful thing is this. This way of thinking can be learned. It is a skill. And like any skill, you can practice it every day. How pessimistic people think. Now, let us explore how pessimistic people think. Remember, this is not about judging anyone. It is not about saying that pessimistic people are bad or weak. We are only trying to understand their thought patterns. When we understand clearly, we can grow and improve. So listen with an open mind, and maybe you will recognize some of these thoughts in yourself. That is completely normal. One common thinking pattern of pessimistic people is expecting failure. Before they even try, they may already believe that they will not succeed. For example, imagine someone wants to apply for a new job. Instead of thinking, maybe I have a chance, they think, they will never choose me. There are better candidates. Because they expect failure, they may not prepare well, or sometimes they may not apply at all. Their expectation becomes a barrier. Another important pattern is blaming themselves or blaming others. When something goes wrong, a pessimistic person might say, "This is my fault. I always ruin everything." This kind of self-blame can damage confidence. Over time, the person may start to believe that they are not capable or not good enough. On the other hand, some pessimistic people blame others. They may say, "It's because of my boss. It's because of my family. It's because of the system." Blaming others can create anger and frustration. In both cases, the person feels stuck. Pessimistic people often think, "Nothing will change." This sentence is very powerful and very dangerous. When someone believes that nothing will improve, they lose motivation. Why try if the result will be the same? Why work hard if there is no hope? This kind of thinking can create a feeling of helplessness. Helplessness means feeling that you have no power to improve your situation. Let us take a simple example. Imagine a student who is learning English. He tries to speak, but he makes mistakes. Some people laugh. He feels embarrassed. A pessimistic thought might be, "I will never speak fluently. My English is terrible. Nothing will change." Because he believes this, he stops practicing. He avoids speaking in class. Slowly, his progress becomes slower. His belief affects his actions. Another common habit of pessimistic thinking is focusing only on what is wrong. For example, imagine you give a presentation. After the presentation, 10 people say, "Good job," but one person says, "You spoke too fast." A pessimistic thinker may focus only on that one negative comment. They may repeat it again and again in their mind. They may forget all the positive feedback. This habit increases doubt and reduces confidence. This kind of thinking also has an emotional impact. Pessimistic thoughts often create feelings of worry, stress, and sadness. When you always expect bad results, your body stays tense. Your mind feels heavy. You may feel tired, even if you did not do much physical work. Negative thinking can take a lot of mental energy. It can make a person feel unmotivated and discouraged. Sometimes pessimistic people believe they are just being realistic. They may say, "I am not negative, I am just realistic." But there is a difference between being realistic and always expecting the worst. Realistic thinking sees both positive and negative possibilities. Pessimistic thinking usually sees mostly negative outcomes. It is also important to understand that pessimism often comes from past experiences. Maybe someone failed many times. Maybe they were criticized a lot when they were young. Maybe they experienced disappointment again and again. Slowly, their mind learned to expect negative results as a way to protect them from pain. If you expect failure, maybe it hurts less when it happens. But this protection can become a prison. Now I want you to reflect for a moment. When something goes wrong in your life, what is your first reaction? Do you immediately think, "I will fail"? Do you blame yourself strongly? Or do you believe that things can improve? Be honest with yourself. There is no right or wrong answer. Awareness is the first step to change. Let me ask you another question. Do you sometimes focus more on your mistakes than on your successes? Do you remember negative comments more clearly than positive ones? If yes, you are not alone. Many people do this. The human brain naturally pays attention to danger, but we can train it to see balance. In simple words, pessimistic people often expect failure, blame themselves or others, believe that nothing will change, and focus more on what is wrong. These thoughts create emotional effects like stress, worry, tiredness, and low motivation. Understanding this pattern does not mean judging it. It means recognizing it. And when you recognize a pattern, you have the power to slowly change it. Remember, thoughts are habits, and habits can be improved. 4. Advantages of being optimistic. Now let us talk about the advantages of being optimistic. We have already understood how optimistic people think. But why is optimism helpful? Why does it matter? In this part, we will explore the benefits of having a positive and hopeful mindset. And maybe, by the end of this section, you will feel inspired to practice optimism in your own life. One big advantage of being optimistic is better mental health. Mental health means the health of your mind, your emotions, and your thoughts. When you usually expect good results and believe that problems are temporary, your mind feels lighter. You do not carry too much fear about the future. Of course, you may still feel stress sometimes, but optimism helps you recover faster. You do not stay in sadness for too long. You remind yourself that this situation will pass. This way of thinking reduces anxiety and gives you inner peace. Optimistic people often experience less worry. They still think about challenges, but they do not let negative thoughts control them. For example, if they have an important meeting, they prepare well. They may feel nervous, but they say, "I did my best. Whatever happens, I will handle it." This simple sentence gives emotional strength. When your mind is calm, you can think clearly. And when you think clearly, you make better decisions. Another strong benefit of optimism is more motivation. Motivation is the energy that pushes you to act. When you believe that your effort can create good results, you are more willing to try. If you believe that improvement is possible, you will practice more. For example, if you are learning English and you believe, "One day I will speak fluently," you will continue listening, speaking, and studying. But if you believe that nothing will change, you may stop trying. Optimism feeds motivation. It gives you a reason to continue. Optimistic people are also more open to trying new things. They see opportunities instead of only risks. For example, imagine someone invites you to join a new project. An optimistic person may think, "This could be a great experience. I may learn something new." Even if they are afraid, they still try. Because of this, they often grow faster. They gain new skills. They meet new people. They create more chances in life. When you say yes to opportunities, your world becomes bigger. Another important advantage of optimism is stronger relationships. People usually enjoy being around positive individuals. Optimistic people often bring hope and encouragement to others. When a friend feels sad, an optimistic person may say, "Don't worry, you can get through this." They listen, they support, and they offer comfort. Because of this, they build trust and connection. Strong relationships improve overall happiness. Humans need support, and optimism helps create it. Optimism also improves problem-solving skills. When you believe that a solution exists, your brain starts looking for it. Instead of saying, "This is impossible," you say, "There must be a way." This mindset opens your creativity. For example, if a business faces financial problems, an optimistic leader might think, "How can we reduce costs? How can we improve our service? How can we attract new customers?" They focus on action. They search for answers. Because they do not give up quickly, they often find better solutions. Optimistic people also handle failure differently. When they fail, they do not see it as the end. They see it as part of the journey. This attitude builds resilience. Resilience means the ability to stand up again after falling. Life is not perfect. Everyone experiences disappointment. But optimism gives you the strength to continue. It says, "This is not the end of my story." Another beautiful advantage is that optimism spreads. When you think positively, you influence people around you. Your words can give hope. Your attitude can inspire others. In this way, optimism creates a positive environment at home, at work, or in school. It is like light in a dark room. One small light can change the atmosphere. Let me ask you something. When you are around someone who always complains, how do you feel? Maybe tired, maybe stressed. Now think about someone who encourages you and believes in you. How do you feel then? Probably stronger and more confident. This shows the power of optimism. In simple words, being optimistic helps your mental health, increases motivation, strengthens relationships, opens doors to new opportunities, and improves problem solving. It does not mean life becomes easy. It means you become stronger. Optimism gives you courage. It gives you hope. And hope is one of the most powerful forces in human life. The good news is this: optimism is not something you are born with or without. It is a habit. And like any habit, it can be practiced. Every time you choose to focus on solutions, every time you believe you can improve, you are building a stronger and healthier mindset. Problems of extreme optimism. Now let us talk about something very important. Until now, we have discussed many advantages of optimism. But we must also understand that extreme optimism can create problems. In life, balance is very important. When something is too much, even if it is positive, it can become harmful. So in this part, we will learn why optimism must be realistic, balanced, and practical. First, let us understand a new word, realistic. Realistic means seeing things as they truly are, not only as we wish them to be. A realistic person understands both positive and negative possibilities. Extreme optimism, however, can sometimes ignore reality. For example, imagine a student who has an important exam tomorrow. Instead of studying, the student says, "I am sure everything will be fine. I don't need to prepare." This is not healthy optimism. This is unrealistic thinking. Hope without effort does not bring success. Another problem of extreme optimism is ignoring real risks. Risk means the possibility that something bad may happen. In life, risks are real. For example, if someone wants to start a business, they need to think carefully about money, planning, and competition. If they only say, "I believe everything will work perfectly," but they do not study the market or create a plan, they may face serious problems. Optimism is helpful, but it should not close our eyes to danger. This is where another important word comes in: balanced. Balanced means not too much and not too little. A balanced person sees both hope and risk. They believe in success, but they also prepare for challenges. For example, before giving a presentation, a balanced thinker might say, "I believe I can do well, but I will also practice carefully." They combine confidence with preparation. This is healthy optimism. Extreme optimism can also lead to not preparing properly. When someone believes that success will come automatically, they may become careless. For example, imagine someone who wants to improve their English. They say, "I am sure I will speak fluently one day." But they never practice speaking. They never listen to podcasts. They never study vocabulary. This kind of thinking creates false hope. False hope is another important idea. False hope means believing strongly in something good without taking action or without looking at reality. It is like waiting for success without doing the work. Over time, when the expected success does not come, the person may feel disappointed. This disappointment can even turn into frustration. Let us look at a simple daily life example. Imagine someone wants to lose weight. They say, "I am positive, I will lose weight." But they continue eating unhealthy food and do not exercise. This is not practical thinking. Practical means focusing on real actions that can create real results. Optimism should push us to act, not to avoid action. Being overly optimistic can also make a person ignore feedback. For example, if a manager receives advice from employees but says, "Everything is perfect, there are no problems," this can harm the company. Sometimes we need to listen to criticism. We need to accept mistakes. If we ignore all negative feedback because we want to stay positive, we stop improving. So what is the lesson here? The lesson is that optimism is powerful, but it must be combined with reality. Healthy optimism says, "I believe I can succeed, and I will prepare carefully." It does not say, "I will succeed without effort." There is a big difference between these two sentences. Let me ask you a reflection question. Have you ever been too confident about something and then realized you were not prepared enough? How did you feel? Maybe embarrassed, maybe surprised, maybe disappointed. This experience teaches us the importance of balance. Another reflection question. When you feel positive about a goal, Do you also make a clear plan? Do you take practical steps? Or do you only hope for a good result? Think about your answer honestly. In simple words, extreme optimism can cause problems when it ignores risks, becomes unrealistic, avoids preparation, and creates false hope. That is why we need to be realistic, balanced, and practical. Optimism is strongest when it is connected to action and responsibility. Remember, true optimism is not blind positivity. It is confident thinking combined with careful planning. It is believing in good results while working hard for them. When optimism and realism work together, they create powerful and lasting success. Advantages of being pessimistic. Sometimes. Now let us look at something very interesting. Until now, we have talked about the negative side of pessimism. But to be fair and balanced, we must also understand that pessimism can sometimes have advantages. Yes, you heard that correctly. In some situations, a small amount of pessimistic thinking can actually be helpful. The key word here is balance. First, let us understand an important idea. There is a difference between healthy caution and negative thinking. Healthy caution means being careful and thinking about possible problems before they happen. Negative thinking, on the other hand, means always expecting failure and believing nothing will improve. These two are not the same. One protects you, the other limits you. One advantage of a little pessimistic thinking is careful planning. When a person thinks about what could go wrong, they often prepare more seriously. For example, imagine you are organizing an important event. A slightly pessimistic thought might say, "What if the microphone stops working? What if fewer people come?" Because you think about these risks, you prepare a backup plan. You test the equipment. You send reminders to guests. In this case, thinking about problems helps you avoid bigger problems later. Another benefit is risk awareness. Risk awareness means understanding possible dangers before making a decision. For example, if someone wants to invest money in a new business, a cautious thinker may ask, "What if the market changes? What if we lose customers?" These questions are not negative by themselves. They help the person make a smarter decision. They may research more. They may save extra money for emergencies. This kind of thinking increases safety. Preparation for problems is another advantage. Life is not always easy. Unexpected situations happen. If you think a little about possible difficulties, you are less surprised when they appear. For example, before traveling to another country, you may think, "What if my flight is delayed? What if I lose my luggage?" Because of these thoughts, you arrive early at the airport and keep important documents in your hand luggage. Here, caution protects you. Thinking about what could go wrong can also improve performance. Imagine you have an important exam. A completely relaxed person might say, "Everything will be fine," and study very little. But someone who thinks, "The exam could be difficult," may study more seriously. This small worry pushes them to prepare better. In this situation, a little pessimism increases effort. However, it is very important to remember that this only works when it is balanced. If you think too much about what could go wrong, you may feel fear and stress. You may stop taking action. That is why healthy caution is helpful, but extreme negativity is harmful. Healthy caution asks questions. Negative thinking gives up. Let us look at a small example. Imagine two people starting a project. The first person says, "Nothing will go wrong, no need to worry." The second person says, "There may be some challenges. Let us think about them. The second person is not negative. They are practical. Practical means thinking in a realistic and useful way. They believe success is possible, but they also prepare for obstacles. Another important point is emotional balance. When you sometimes think about possible problems, you are mentally prepared. If something unexpected happens, you are not completely shocked. You may say, "I thought this might happen. I am ready." This creates emotional stability. Now let me ask you a reflection question. When you plan something important, do you think about possible challenges? Do you prepare for them? Or do you only hope everything will be perfect? Think about your answer. Here is another question. When you imagine something going wrong, does it motivate you to prepare more? Or does it stop you from trying? The difference between healthy caution and negative thinking is action. Healthy caution leads to preparation. Negative thinking leads to fear and inaction. In simple words, being a little pessimistic can help you plan carefully, understand risks, prepare for problems, and think about what could go wrong. This can make you smarter and more responsible. But this kind of thinking must stay balanced. It should not destroy hope. It should not remove motivation. The goal is not to choose only optimism or only pessimism. The goal is to combine the strengths of both. Hope gives you courage. Caution gives you wisdom. When you use both together, you create a strong and balanced mindset. Who lives better? Now let us ask a very important and honest question. Who lives better, optimistic people or pessimistic people? After everything we discussed in this episode, you may already have an idea. But let us explore this deeply and clearly. First, we must understand what living better really means. Living better does not only mean having more money or more success. It also means having peace of mind, emotional strength, healthy relationships, and the courage to grow. A good life is not just about results. It is also about how you feel during the journey. Optimistic people often live better emotionally. Why? Because they do not stay in negative feelings for too long. When something bad happens, they feel sad or disappointed. But they believe the situation is temporary. This belief protects their mental health. They recover faster. They move forward sooner. Their hope gives them energy. Because they expect improvement, they keep trying. And when you keep trying, your chances of success increase. Optimistic people also usually experience less stress in daily life. They focus on solutions instead of only focusing on problems. When you believe that something can be solved, your mind feels more peaceful. You sleep better. You think more clearly. You make better decisions. Over time, this creates a healthier and more balanced life. In relationships, optimistic people often live better as well. They are more encouraging. They believe in others. They forgive more easily. Because of this, people feel comfortable around them. Strong relationships are one of the most important parts of a happy life. And optimism helps build those strong connections. Now let us talk about pessimistic people. Do they live worse in every situation? Not always. As we learned earlier, a little caution can be helpful. Pessimistic thinking can sometimes protect people from risk. It can make them careful planners. It can help them prepare for challenges. In certain situations, this can prevent mistakes. However, when pessimism becomes a habit, life often feels heavier. If someone always expects failure, they may stop trying. If someone believes nothing will change, they may lose motivation. This can create a cycle. Negative thoughts lead to less action. Less action leads to fewer results. Fewer results increase negative thoughts again. Emotionally, this can feel exhausting. So, who lives better overall? In most cases, optimistic people live better. Not because their life has fewer problems, but because their mindset helps them handle problems more effectively. They see opportunities where others see only obstacles. They believe in growth. They believe in learning. This belief changes their behavior, and behavior shapes life. But here is something very important. The best life does not belong to someone who is only optimistic or only pessimistic. The best life belongs to someone who is mostly optimistic but also realistic and balanced. Someone who believes in good results but still prepares carefully. Someone who hopes for the best but is ready for challenges. Living better is not about choosing one extreme. It is about choosing a healthy mindset. A mindset that gives you hope, strength, and wisdom at the same time. So now I ask you, which mindset do you want to grow? The one that limits you, or the one that pushes you forward? The choice is not made once, it is made every day, in small thoughts, in small reactions, in small decisions. And those small choices, repeated again and again, slowly create the quality of your life. How to become more optimistic. Practical steps. Now let us move to a very practical and important part of this episode. Maybe you are listening and thinking, I understand optimism, but how can I become more optimistic in real life? The good news is this. Optimism is not something you are simply born with. It is a skill. And like any skill, you can practice it step by step. The first step is to change your self-talk. Self-talk is the voice inside your mind. All day long, you speak to yourself silently. Sometimes you say positive things. Sometimes you say negative things. If you want to become more optimistic, you must listen carefully to your inner voice. For example, when you make a mistake, what do you say? Do you say, I am so stupid? Or do you say, I made a mistake, but I can learn from it? The second sentence is more helpful. It does not ignore the mistake, but it gives hope. Here is a small exercise. For the next few days, notice your thoughts. When you catch a negative sentence in your mind, stop and change it. For example, change, I can't do this to, this is difficult, but I can try. Change, I always fail to, sometimes I fail, but I can improve. This small change may feel strange at first, but slowly your brain will learn a new pattern. Let us do a short speak-in practice together. Repeat after me, slowly and clearly. I can improve step by step. Mistakes help me grow. I choose positive thoughts. Pause the podcast if you need more time. When you say these sentences aloud, you train your brain to believe them. The second step is to focus on solutions. When a problem happens, ask yourself one simple question. What can I do now? This question is powerful. It moves your mind from complaining to acting. For example, if you fail an exam, instead of thinking, why is this happening to me? Ask, how can I prepare better next time? Write down one small action you can take. Maybe study 1 extra hour. Maybe ask a friend for help. Small actions create big changes over time. The third step is to practice gratitude. Gratitude means being thankful for what you already have. When you focus only on what is missing, you feel unhappy. But when you focus on what you have, your heart feels lighter. Every day, try to write down 3 things you are thankful for. They can be simple things: a good meal, a kind message from a friend, a quiet moment in the morning. Gratitude shifts your attention from problems to blessings. Here is a small gratitude exercise. Tonight, before you sleep, ask yourself, what went well today? Even on a difficult day, there is always something small that went well. When you practice this daily, your brain starts to look for positive moments automatically. Another important step is to spend time with positive people. The people around you influence your mindset. If you are always with people who complain and criticize, it becomes harder to stay optimistic. But when you are around people who encourage you and believe in you, your energy changes. Try to spend more time with people who inspire you. Listen to podcasts that motivate you. Read books that give hope. Your environment shapes your thinking. The final step is to accept mistakes as lessons. Everyone makes mistakes. No one is perfect. When you see mistakes as proof of failure, you feel shame. But when you see them as lessons, you grow. For example, if you try something new and it does not work, ask yourself, what did I learn? Write it down. Turn every failure into feedback. Let us do another small speaking practice. Repeat after me. My mistakes do not define me. I learn from every experience. I believe in my growth. Optimism grows slowly. It is not magic. Some days will still feel difficult. But every time you choose hopeful thoughts, every time you look for solutions, every time you practice gratitude, you strengthen your optimistic mindset. Remember, becoming more optimistic does not mean ignoring reality. It means choosing a helpful way to see reality. It means believing that improvement is possible. And the more you practice, the more natural it becomes. Step by step, thought by thought, you can train your mind to see light even in difficult moments. Short comparison story. Now let me tell you a short story to make everything clearer and more memorable. Stories are powerful because they help us see ideas in real life. So imagine two friends. Their names are Daniel and Kareem. They work in the same company. They have the same position. They have similar experience. One day, something unexpected happens. The company announces that it must reduce the number of employees. Both Daniel and Kareem lose their jobs on the same day. When they hear the news, both of them feel shocked. Both feel sad. Both feel worried about money and the future. The situation is exactly the same, but their reactions are very different. Kareem reacts in a pessimistic way. On his way home, he keeps thinking, "This is terrible. Why does this always happen to me? I will never find another job. The economy is bad. Companies are not hiring." His mind focuses only on the negative side. He feels fear and stress. That night, he cannot sleep well. The next day, he does not update his CV. He does not search for job opportunities. He feels tired and unmotivated. Inside his mind, he believes that nothing will change. Because he believes this, he takes very little action. Daniel, on the other hand, also feels sad and worried. But after some time, he says to himself, "Okay, this is difficult. I did not expect this. But maybe this is also a new opportunity." He allows himself to feel disappointed, but he does not stay in that feeling too long. He starts asking himself, "What can I do now? What skills do I have? Who can I contact?" That same evening, he updates his CV. He writes messages to some old colleagues. He begins searching online for job openings. During the next week, Kareem continues thinking, "There are no good jobs. It is useless to try." He spends many hours complaining and watching television. Every time he sees a job advertisement, he thinks, "They will not choose me." Because of this belief, he does not apply. Daniel faces rejection too. He sends applications and receives some negative responses. But when he receives a rejection email, he says, "That's okay. I will try again." He asks himself how he can improve his interview skills. He watches videos about job interviews. He practices speaking in front of a mirror. He believes that with effort, he can improve. After 1 month, something interesting happens. Daniel gets an invitation for an interview. He feels nervous, but he prepares carefully. During the interview, he speaks with confidence because he practiced. A few days later, he receives good news. He gets the job. It is not perfect, but it is a new beginning. Karim is still at home. He feels more and more hopeless. He thinks, "Daniel was lucky. I am not lucky." But the truth is not about luck. The truth is about mindset and action. Now, let us stop the story for a moment. Both men lost their jobs. Both felt fear. Both faced the same problem. The difference was not in the situation. The difference was in their thinking. Karim believed that failure was permanent. Daniel believed that difficulty was temporary. Karim focused on what he lost. Daniel focused on what he could do next. This story does not mean that optimistic people always succeed quickly, and it does not mean that pessimistic people always fail. Real life is more complex, but mindset strongly influences action, and action influences results. Let me ask you a question. If you were in their situation, who would you be more like? Karim or Daniel? When you face a problem, do you stop trying? Or do you look for the next step? The lesson of this story is simple. Two people can stand in the same storm, but one looks at the dark clouds and the other looks for the light behind them. The storm is the same. The sky is the same. But the focus is different. And focus changes the future. In life, we cannot control every problem, but we can control our reaction. And sometimes, that small difference in reaction changes everything. As we come to the end of this episode, let us take a quiet moment to reflect on everything we have discussed today. We talked about optimistic people and pessimistic people. We explored how they think, how they react to problems, and how their mindset influences their actions. Now, the most important question is this: what will you do with this knowledge? The first key message I want you to remember is simple but powerful. Optimism is a skill. It is not magic. It is not something only lucky people have. It is something you can practice every day. Just like learning English, improving your mindset takes time, patience, and repetition. In the beginning, it may feel difficult to change your thoughts. Negative thinking may feel automatic, but with practice, new thinking patterns become natural. We also learned that mindset can change. Your mindset is the way you see the world. It is the filter through which you understand situations. Some people believe that their personality cannot change. They say, "I am just a negative person." But this is not true. The human brain is flexible. It learns and adapts. When you start choosing hopeful thoughts, focusing on solutions, and learning from mistakes, your mindset slowly transforms. Remember Daniel and Karim from our story. The difference between them was not intelligence, it was not luck, it was not talent. The difference was mindset. One believed that the problem was the end. The other believed it was a new beginning. That belief created different actions, and those actions created different results. Another important idea is that small changes in thinking can change your life. You do not need a big dramatic transformation. You only need small daily improvements. For example, changing one sentence in your self-talk can make a difference. Instead of saying, "I can't do this," say, "I will try." Instead of saying, "This always happens to me," say, "This is temporary." These small changes may seem simple, but they influence your emotions. Your emotions influence your behavior, and your behavior shapes your future. It is also important to remember that being optimistic does not mean ignoring problems. It means facing them with courage. It means believing that even if today is difficult, tomorrow can be better. It means trusting that effort has value. It means understanding that failure is not the end of the story. Maybe you are listening right now and thinking about a challenge in your own life. Maybe you are facing difficulties at work, at school, or in your personal life. I want you to know something very clearly. Your current situation does not define your entire future. The way you respond to it matters more than the problem itself. From today, try to observe your thoughts. When something goes wrong, pause for a moment. Take a deep breath. Ask yourself, what is one positive action I can take? It does not have to be big, just one small step. Step by step, your confidence will grow. Step by step, your thinking will become stronger. Let us finish with a short speaking practice together. Repeat these sentences slowly and clearly. I can train my mind. My mindset can grow. Every small positive thought makes me stronger. I choose hope. Feel the meaning of these words as you say them. They are simple, but they are powerful. Thank you so much for spending your time with me today here on Code Your English. I am truly proud of you for listening, learning, and practicing your English. Remember, improving your language and improving your mindset can happen at the same time. Keep practicing. Keep believing. And most importantly, keep moving forward. Until our next episode, take care of your thoughts, because your thoughts shape your life.